All right, so welcome back to the Cognition School Podcast. We have a very, very special guest on today, and we're really excited to bring on Topher Scott from a hockey think tank. Topher, thanks a lot for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. Excited to talk some hockey.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we've been going back and forth for a while now, because we kind of touch on so many different aspects of hockey, but very, very similar topics. But I wanted to kind of get a little bit of background as to your background and how you came up with Hockey Think Tank.
Yeah, so it started as like a passion project maybe I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. I had just left coaching college hockey and was kind of looking for what the next step was going to be, and certainly wanted to stay in hockey. Just wanted a little bit more balance in the lifestyle with the new family and stuff like that. So yeah, I just started kind of putting out some stuff on social media about hockey development, hockey education, and it's turned into a podcast, and now it's turned into a company, and we work with youth organizations all throughout North America now on a lot of different things. And so yeah, what started as a passion project has now become what I like to call a little bit of a movement, trying to change the culture of youth hockey and try to do it through positivity and through education. And we're having a lot of fun doing it.
And when did you start your podcast?
About 6.5 years ago now,
Wow.
which is kind of crazy. So we've been doing it. It's myself and my cousin Jeff Lavecchio. He played 10 years of pro, actually a Western Michigan grad. So he's all jacked right now after the Broncos won the national championship,
Yeah,
and
that's crazy.
so we have fun doing it, and it's been a great learning experience for us, as I'm sure as it is for you.
Yeah, so because I guess so you had the podcast before COVID then.
Yep. We started. I believe it was, oh geez, 2018, something like that. Whatever six and a half years ago was. Not
Yeah.
a math major by any means, but yeah, we started pre-COVID. And it was interesting because podcasting at the time wasn't necessarily big yet, but it was at least big enough to be like, hey, we should start doing this. And so we just kind of took it and ran with it. And as you know, when you're starting it, you have no idea what you're doing, and then you just grow and evolve. And we're 2 million downloads later, and I think we've done over 360, 70 episodes or something like that. So we have a blast.
Yeah. And yeah, because obviously COVID changed everything, even for us too. That because we were one of few places that was training outside and taking advantage of the nice weather. And yeah, because rinks were closed, and so people were obviously on their phones or outside doing training. And so I think that's really kind of where things changed for us as well.
No question.
Yeah, and so I didn't know Jeff is your cousin.
He's my cousin. Yep, he is my cousin. So we are about a month apart in age, and his mom and my dad are brother and sister. And so yeah, it's he was best man at my wedding. I was best man at his wedding. All that good stuff. And
That's great.
like I said, we have a blast doing it. Getting the chance
And
to.
where do you guys live right now? Are you in St. Louis?
I'm in Chicago. Yep, I'm in
Chicago.
Chicago, and he's in St. Louis. Yep.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, I love Chicago because my son was playing at Roosevelt last year and he had a blast. So
Nice.
yeah. So
Nice. Yeah,
I
it's
got a
a
chance.
great city. Great sports town. Our sports teams aren't very good right now at the professional levels, but hopefully it's paving the way
Rebuild.
for
It's
maybe
gonna
4 or
be a
5 years
rebuild.
down the road.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So as far as your coaching goes, tell us a little bit about your coaching background.
Sure. Yeah, I got my start in coaching actually in college, and so I did a grad assistant year at Miami of Ohio, where I got my master's in sports performance and was able to be a part of the coaching staff there, and that was in 2010. And so we had a great year. Andy Mealy won the Hobie Baker that year. We won the CCHA championship that year. We were a 1 seed going in the NCAA tournament, and actually got upset in the first round. But then I went to coach at Cornell for 5 years, which is where I played my college hockey. And then, like I said, left college coaching for a little bit to have a little bit more balance in the lifestyle. So got into youth hockey and started coaching in youth hockey a little bit. Also had the opportunity to work as director of hockey ops at University of Michigan as well. So been at the college level, been at the youth level. And the funny story that I like to tell is, when I'm recruiting at the college level and talking to midget coaches and talking to families, everybody just seems so stressed in youth hockey. And so it's like, what's going on here? Then I became a youth hockey coach and a youth hockey director, and I was like, oh, I get it now. I get it now. It's pretty wild to say the least. But yeah, coached at a lot of different levels, and some things when you're coaching are similar, and some things you got to tailor towards the age and the level and stuff. But Really enjoy it. Hockey coach at heart, to say the least.
Yeah, and so obviously you've gotten to see, that the changes over time. Like what kind of changes are you seeing right now in the hockey world, especially at the minor hockey level?
Well, I think as a whole, it's just become so professionalized at such a young age. And
Yeah.
so we've really lost the value of kind of like community hockey and rec hockey in a lot of different places throughout the US and Canada. And what it's created is just like a sense of fear of missing out and a sense of, one of the biggest things when I get the opportunity to speak to kids or to work with youth organizations, one of the things that I always highlight and try to stress is like we've lost the value of the logo on the front of the jersey being really important.
Mm.
And it's so much of it is about making it, whatever making it means, right? And so it's become so individualized, it's become so pressurized at such a young age, and that's something we're really trying to change just by putting out a lot of different educational content out there, and trying to speak to a lot of people in the youth hockey world to see what's going on at the grassroots levels, and I think that's the biggest change. Honestly, it's become so much of a business rather than a staple of the community, where you learn your values and you learn how to be a part of a team. And that's not to say you can't do that in the professional model that's been created too, but it's become tough. It's become tough for a lot of families to try to navigate. It's become way too expensive. It's become way too serious at too young of an age, and so we're trying to kind of rein it back a little bit right now and educate people on how to do that.
Yeah, I think the business aspect of it has become really front and center. I know you guys touch on it a lot on your podcast as well. I mean, obviously, there's so much to the game, both from a skill wise and team wise, and especially, with our American friends, you're traveling quite a bit, right? Like we're pretty lucky that, being in Toronto, there's plenty of teams to play and leagues to play in, but the travel definitely is a big part, I think, of hockey, especially in the US.
Yeah, big time. And it's travel's expensive. It's really
Yeah,
expensive
yeah,
to say
yeah.
the least.
And from I mean, speaking of changes, do you find that a lot of kids are kind of becoming more single sport oriented over, the last few years, or are they still kind of playing different sports from your perspective?
Yeah, big time. I think big time. It's with hockey becoming such a business, and a big part of it is, so many of the rinks now are privately owned as opposed to community owned. So they want people in the summer, in the rinks and spring, and so it's really driven a lot more kids to, be in the rink more, especially at times of the year where they should be outside and playing other sports. And that's not to say you shouldn't do any spring hockey or summer hockey or things like that, because we all did that growing up, playing spring leagues and doing little camps and clinics in the summer at different times. But yeah, I think the Vex and I talk about it a lot. Vex is my partner on the podcast, and he's a strength and conditioning coach from youth levels all the way up to the pros. And one of the things that he really, really, really emphasizes is the importance of being a multi sport athlete. And not only does it help in terms of, less burnout mentally and less wear and tear injuries, overuse injuries. You're seeing a lot of particularly hockey players having a lot of hip, ab, groin injuries at younger and younger ages now because of the way that your body moves when you skate and they're on the ice for way too long, or way too, I should say, way too many times throughout the year, particularly in the spring and the summer. But also, playing other sports, it helps you be a better hockey player too. It helps you be a better hockey player when you have a wide array of experiences that you can draw from. You think about like how things can translate from different sports into hockey. Soccer is a great example. Basketball is a great example. Pass, give and go. Reading angles, reading your teammates, reading different cues from the defender or the person that's on offense. Even think about like golf or baseball, and you think about hand-eye coordination, tennis, sports like that, with footwork. So being able to take different things from different sports and bring it into your hockey acumen is something that studies have shown can help you to be a better hockey player, outside of the fact that you're very much less opportunity for you to burn out mentally, and you're going to have a decrease in the opportunity to have overuse injuries too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, why do you think that is? Like, why do you think that there's less kids playing multi-sport? Like, is it going back to that, that fear of missing out, or is it are there other possible reasons?
No, I think that's a big part of it. I think the fear of missing out is probably the biggest reason why. There's a sense from not just the kids, but mostly coming from the parents, right? That like, hey, if I don't enroll my kid in this, or they're not on this tournament team in the spring and the summer, or but everybody else is doing it, my kid is going to get left behind. And their dream, and it's not out of malaise or anything like that. They want what's best for their son or for their daughter, and they're trying to give them every opportunity possible to achieve their dream of playing high level hockey. Which kids that are in the sport, a lot of them have those dreams, right? So it's not malicious by any means, but that's just the culture that's kind of been created in this business model that we have in youth hockey. Where hey, if I feel like if my kid's not doing X, Y, and Z, and everybody else is, then that's gonna hamper their ability to reach their dreams at the end of the day. I think
Yeah.
that's really prevalent.
Now, and this is, I mean, I always try to see both sides of the coin, but on the, as a parent of like being in the U.S., raising a hockey player, um, is the ultimate goal to get to college, or is it something else? Like, I mean, obviously everybody wants to make the NHL, but here in Canada anyway, the goal is to obviously make it to the NHL through junior hockey, right? Like the OHL, CHL. But some parents actually think, okay, I just want my kid to get a free ride and free education. I don't know if
Yeah, it depends on who you ask, right? There's some families where they're going to top out playing for their high school team, in Minnesota, or in some like in prep school in Massachusetts. There are some that want to play junior hockey. There's some that want to play college hockey. I think in U.S. college hockey is a lot more prevalent than probably up in Canada, although that might change here with the rules changing and
yeah,
with CHL kids being able to come down and play now. But yeah, I think college hockey and pro hockey is typically the dream. We also have the National Development Program, which if you're playing AAA hockey down here in the States is something that a lot of kids are aspiring to get to now. And so there's a lot of different answers to that question, but the top three I would imagine would probably be your NTDP, your college, and your pro. That's kind of like the dream at the end of the day.
yeah. And what's kind of like your feedback been from parents that you work with or players that you work with this rule change with the NCAA rules?
Yeah, again, like it depends on who you ask on what the feedback is. If you're an American parent right now, and again, not many people are really diving too deep into this, but we've just opened up the player pool by 60 really good junior hockey clubs in Canada, between the Q and the O and the WHL. And 60 is a relative term. It's probably more or less or something. But and that's good hockey. It's really, really good hockey. And so as an American, you're like, oh, the pipeline just got a lot bigger, of players to come down to the States and take these spots. And so you are getting a little bit of angst maybe from some American programs and American families. I don't think they're that attuned to it yet because it's so new still. And a lot of times you don't really realize the effects until kind of years later down the road. But it's going to make college hockey a lot better. You've just opened up the player talent pool by a lot, so there's going to be a lot more, really really good hockey players that are available to be able to play. I think it's going to help pro hockey as well, just in terms of some kids who are draft picks might not be ready to come out of major junior at 20 years old to play in the AHL or to play in the NHL, and now this gives them a little bit more of a runway to be a little bit more of a late mature, late developer. So I think pro hockey is going to get better as well, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of what USA Hockey and Hockey Canada do, just because whenever anything happens at the top level, there's always a trickle down effect to junior hockey and then into midget hockey and on down. And so, I think both governing bodies are trying to brace for what's about to happen, and we'll see where it goes. But hopefully, I'm a big believer in that. What is it? The rising tide raises all boats. And so, with this decision to allow major junior kids to come down and play in college, I think that's going to put a emphasis on everybody. Hey, we got to up our game. We got to up our game, especially down here in the States, to make sure that more American kids have access to be able to play at that level, because the spots are going to be a little bit more limited now with the talent pool being opened up so much.
Well, it's interesting to see the number of American kids that were drafted to the O, a couple days ago, um, because I think that was an eye opener for some of the Ontario kids here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think equally everybody's kind of, bit of a shock factor, both sides.
For sure. And a lot of it comes down to, I think just kind of where you're from in different regions down here in the States, like in Michigan and in Chicago where I'm at, we're very familiar about the OHL. It's something that, there used to be a team in Plymouth where USA Hockey plays now. You got teams in Erie and Saginaw and stuff like that. So we're a little bit more familiar. Whereas maybe the teams out west, Minnesota, Colorado, they don't really understand Major Junior or the WHL as much. But I would imagine they will now. I would
They will
imagine they
now.
will now, to say the least.
Yeah, no, I think because definitely there's some really great teams, and even in the Chicago area as well. Like you got the Mission and the Reapers, I think too as well, right? So there's some really good programs that are popping up. And for some of the kids that you've been working with, what's been kind of like their, I guess, approach to development? Like obviously, they're working on skating, they're working on shooting, and all those basic fundamentals. What are some of the new things that are kind of coming for these kids as they continue on with their journey that you think would be beneficial for even for the audience that's listening to
Sure.
this?
I think there's been an arc with development that has changed over the past decade or two. You know, about 10 years ago or 15 years ago now, when the rule changes happened in the NHL, right? It was, hey, we got to change, we got to breed more faster, more skilled players, which is great, which is a really important thing. And a lot of the focus became on skill development. And that's very, very important. And I think what you're seeing now is a little bit more of a recalibration back to the median of, okay, we have a lot of skilled hockey players now, but we don't have a lot of smart hockey players now. And the rise of, again, this is partly business. There's a lot of skills coaches out there, which there's no problem with that at all. We need skilled coaches and we need skilled players. So I always make sure to preface this on that, but it's become so individualized and it's become so implement oriented, and so much less of group team hockey sense, hockey awareness type stuff. So if you talk with coaches at the highest levels of hockey, what they will tell you is we have a lot of really skilled hockey players, but we don't have a lot of hockey players that really understand how to play the game. And that we can get into that. There's a lot of different ways that can go too. But I think you're seeing now a little bit, like I said, of a recalibration where it's like, okay, we're doing the skill stuff. That's good, but it's come at a little bit of a cost as well. And so now you're seeing a little bit more of, you know, team, small group, as opposed to like the individual lesson, solely skill focused type practices and trainings.
Yeah, so I mean, we were doing another episode that we were just recording last week, and just kind of talking about, obviously the 95 to 98% of the time when you don't have the puck on your stick, and that off puck movement and the intelligence to also get into those right areas at the right time. What are your thoughts on, kind of how to teach something like that to a young player that's coming up? Obviously, lots of skill, but from an intelligence and smarts perspective, especially when they don't have the puck, like what's kind of like your approach to that?
Yeah, I honestly, like, very, very simply, the first thing that we all have to do as coaches is ask a fundamental question to the kids that we're coaching. And that is, who's the most important people on the ice? Is it the people with the puck or the people without the puck? And, kids are typically pretty smart. And when you ask the question, they'll be like, without the puck. So like, let's make sure that we understand that this is important. And we need to focus on this. And I'm very fortunate. I had a great youth coach growing up. His name was Stan Stiopkin, straight off the boat from Russia. He was a disciple of Anatoly Tarasov. And for anybody that's a history buff, understands that he's the father of Russian hockey and those Red Army teams that, won the Olympics and the World Championships pretty much every year. And one of the things that I'm fortunate to take with me in my coaching, having learned it from him, is his biggest gripe with us in practices is when we didn't move with the puck. So if we had the puck and we moved it and we stood still, he legit would stop practice. He would blow the whistle. The drill would be dead and you would have to do a somersault, like a somersault on the ice. That was your punishment. And then we would get back into the drill again. But it was his way of like, hey, every coach has their thing that they really want to emphasize, right? Like back checking or stopping at the net, just little habits that are really important. That was his. Like that was his MO. And so he developed a group of us that just became really smart hockey players. I think of our 15 kids we had on the team, I think 10 or 11 of us played college hockey or major junior. Out of that Bantam team, we won the national championship like 9-1. We were really, really good. And a lot of it had to do with his coaching, right? And so I've brought a lot of what I learned from him into how I coach today, because the big thing for practice is a small area games, right? Everybody talks about the importance of small area games in practice, and we should be doing a lot of those in practice. We were doing that 25 years ago. We were doing that 25 years ago. And so, a lot of that understanding of how to move without the puck is playing small area games and letting kids figure it out, and having different constraints within the game to make sure that you're emphasizing movement without the puck. So one of my favorite constraints, or rules, let's call it, in a practice is, let's say we're playing a 2-on-2 or a 3-on-3 small area game. One of the rules is you can only hold on to the puck for 2 seconds. You can only hold on to the puck for 2 seconds. Why? Because we're forcing our teammates to have to move to get open so we can give them the puck, because there's such a small time that we're able to have it. And so, like, adding little things like that into your drills, I think is really important. Small area games, again, like, they're really important because we've lost a lot of what I think created hockey sense, and that's playing pond hockey and playing unstructured hockey. That's a lot of where you learn it, just trying things and failing and not having a coach in your ear when you turn pucks over, and stuff like that. So you can get that within little small area games by doing things like that. Another thing is just video, just watching video, watching NHL games and watching your favorite NHL player, and seeing what a Connor McDavid does, or seeing what a Nathan McKinnon does, or a Sidney Crosby or Kucherov, like, where are they getting their pucks? How are they creating time and space for themselves? And kind of, I always think the best players are the best students, and they really want to, learn a little bit about that. So find a player that you want to model your game after, whether it's a forward or a defenseman or even a goalie, and just take something out of that too. So, long-winded answer to your question, but I think it's a really important, a great question to talk about.
I think the 2-second rule that you just talked about is brilliant. Even though, it sounds so simple to implement, but it's so powerful. We always talk about, taking your time to get into those right areas at the right time. And I think that 2-second window is just enough time to position yourself in those right areas. Sometimes I find that kids go too fast into certain areas, and then some kids are obviously too slow. And obviously, if you're too fast, you might be overskating the puck, or maybe there's a stick in the passing lane, right? That got there because you kind of went into that pass, that area where the opponent's stick was. But I think that 2-second rule, I think, is such a simple thing, and I think coaches might overlook that because it sounds so simple. But I think the drill itself, and once it's executed, they're going to find that, oh, this is actually quite fun to do.
Well, I think one of the things that you just said too is a big part of it as well. I thought it's so funny you say that, because I literally put a post on social media about this today, and that's timing. Kids today, it's very hard. They're not very good at timing and finding the right spots to jump, or to hop into a hole, where there's a passing lane. And the clip that I showed was a clip of, Carolina over back checking on Toronto, and Matthews and Riley doing a bit of a give and go across the Royal Road for a goal. And when you look at that play, Morgan Riley was the defenseman that's jumping up in the play, and he was the third guy. Nyes drove the net. Matthews had the puck on the weak side. And so Morgan Riley, what happens in a lot of drills in youth hockey is that defenseman that's jumping up is, like you said, way ahead of the play. Way ahead of the play. And I think a big part of that is so much of what we coach today is all about fast, 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 fast. Fast in transition. It's really hard to score in the ozone. So let's go fast. Everything is fast, which there is a lot of merit to that. Don't get me wrong. Like, you want to play fast and catch the other team in transition when they can't get into their structure and things like that. However, we've lost a little bit of the timing aspect of development. So if you and you've been on the ice with a lot of kids, right? Like, if you do a drill where there's a timing aspect where somebody's got to jump up in the play, how many times do you see like a delay, and then that person has overshot their window and the puck gets passed to their skates, or the puck gets passed behind them, or they have to maneuver their body to get it? And so that is a part of where, just like that unstructured play, but also drill design, doing things in practice where you have some drills where people have to time it. Maybe there's a delay, like the drill, like the play we were just talking about, and the D's jumping up, and they gotta kind of time it. Or maybe a forward has to, take the puck around the net on a rush drill, and then the other forward has to kind of time it to be that F3. That is a very valuable skill But again, going back to our previous kind of conversation, you can't get that in a one-on-one skill session. These are things that you need teammates to kind of help with. And that's where I think we need to do more of, not just solely individual technical skills. There's got to be a rhyme or reason to make sure that things transfer to the games as well.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that because one of the talks I did for the coaches site last year now, yeah, is really talking about, timing and being patient,
Mhm.
right? That you're not just going in a straight line and just taking off, and then if you don't get the pass, well, that's the defenseman's fault for not getting it to me, right? And then so there's a little bit of that, finger pointing on each end. But yeah, you're right. Like in terms of just, yeah, if you're gonna go in a straight line, you may just want to maybe curl a little bit and just buy yourself a little bit of time, as if you're kind of straddling the blue line on, making a zone entry and just waiting for that puck carrier to make his move, and then you kind of follow in behind. But yeah, those are definitely things that are on a one-on-one, even a private session. Like it's so hard to teach because I mean, you need those teammates. And going back to your point about unstructured hockey, I think it's so important, especially playing the 3-on-3s or the 2-on-2s or whatever the drill might be, but something that will enable you to try different things without feeling like you're constantly on a 5-on-5 and it's got a system. And so I think a lot of those things are super important. But I think some kids today, they don't want to play those unstructured hockey because they feel like it doesn't improve.
It does. It does. It does. I mean, if you really low, like if you talk to, and we get the opportunity to do this on our podcast, talking to, former NHL players, current NHL players, but especially former NHL players, how'd you fall in love with the game? Well, it was on a pond. It was in my driveway. It was 6 a.m., when my community rinks doors were opened and anybody can come out on the ice and do their thing. It had nothing to do with coaches. And obviously you need coaches to get better and help you to develop. But there's so much to be said about how much you can develop your skills, your understanding of the game just by trying and failing, and figuring it out yourself. A lot of ex NHL players that we've talked to have talked about.
My good friend is a basketball coach, and we've implemented a basketball court in here, not just because of basketball players that we work with, but also giving our hockey guys an opportunity to learn how to play basketball from a positioning perspective. And I find that there's a lot of similarities with some of the IQ that's involved in basketball versus hockey, especially in kind of when you're in that defensive zone and playing man-to-man coverage and learning to use your cuts to get away from your defender, um, based on the ball being at the baseline. Where do you go when you're up top, and then how do you lose your the defender to then using screens and all these different types of plays that I think is so relevant in hockey. But obviously in hockey, like, you need a rink for the most part to be able to execute that, but we can probably simulate a lot of those scenarios in basketball.
Play other sports are great. Play other sports, kids. Let's go.
What did you play growing up yourself?
I was big into baseball, really big into baseball. Obviously, hockey, play a little bit of tennis as well. So those were probably the three. Hockey and baseball for sure were the two big ones. Yeah, unfortunately, my White Sox right now are breaking records in the wrong direction, but it is what it is. It is what it is.
The interesting thing about Chicago, and this is probably anywhere outside of Toronto, but when a team is not doing well, people don't show up, right? They don't, like I remember going to a Blackhawks game a couple of years ago, and this is, I guess, pre-Bedard, but yeah, we were able to get tickets for like $9,
Wow.
right? And I mean, yes, nosebleeds, yes, but
Still, that's
still,
pretty good.
my parking costs more than that.
Yeah, the Connor Bedard was very important to the Blackhawks, you know, and their balance sheets, to say the least.
Yeah,
He's a draw.
absolutely.
He's a draw.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's
But it
really good.
really it showed me that, yeah, I mean, hey, if the team's not performing, you know, people don't support them. Now, that's a whole, there's a whole bandwagon thing, but at the same time, like here in Toronto, it doesn't matter how they're performing. It's uh, the tickets are sometimes, $200, $300 a seats for a standing room
Yeah.
over here.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. Now, as far as the obviously like we have different age groups of kids that we work with here. Is there kind of like a phase of different skills that you would want to implement as they get older? So for like okay, so you got the youth kids that are say 8 years old versus something a bit more in the teenagers versus kind of the college and pro guys. Like what's kind of like your phase for skill
Yeah, I
development?
think I think as you get older, you get a little bit more detailed, into the smaller intricacies of the game. I've always been a really big believer, especially at the youngest of ages. Your only job and most important job is to get these kids to fall in love with hockey. Like that's it.
Hmm.
However you do that, hockey aside, that's it. Like that's the most important thing. And for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's good for business. The more people that fall in love with it, the more, even at the NHL level, the more longtime customers you're going to have for your youth organization. It's going to be great for retention. The best marketing that you can have is a happy family who's going to go talk to their friends and say, "Hey, we're having a great experience with this organization." And then on the other side of it too, even from like a hockey development standpoint, when you love something, you're going to work at it more. And when you work at it more and you have more intention with the things that you do, you're going to develop faster and you're going to develop more. And so, like, if you look at, and I've been very fortunate to have played with and coached a lot of players that have gone on to play at the highest levels of hockey. So, one consistency that they all have, they all love to play hockey. If you don't have that, it's very hard to reach your dreams. Very, very hard. So, I think at the youngest of ages, right? Like the most important thing is that you're developing that love and passion for the game. Now, we have to keep in mind that is still something we have to continue to preach even at the NHL level, right? Like that's a grind. You got to keep it fun and you got to keep them engaged and things like that. But like so foundationally, if you're looking at the bottom of the pyramid, it's got to start with a love for the game. So in learn to play and at the youngest of ages, right, it's got to be a lot of games and a lot of races, and it doesn't have to be so hockey specific. All of the things that you do, where we're drilling into these kids the skills, the skills, the skills. You can hide that stuff with fun. And so I think just base at the beginning, that's really important. And then when you look at like the foundational skills, right, you look at the foundational skills of what you're trying to like again at the younger levels, like there has to be an emphasis on skating. There has to be an emphasis on skating for a couple of reasons. I mean, number one, when you look at the game today, as you get older, skating is a skill that's in high regard and in high demand. Like we talked about, the game is very fast. You have to be able to skate. Unless you are the smartest hockey player on the ice by far, you have to be able to skate to be able to achieve the next level, of the game. And so that we need to, again, has to be kind of like in the foundation. And then you get into your puck skills, you get into your stick handling, you get into your passing and things like that. But at the end of the day, like really really focusing on the fun, focusing on the skating to start. And then as you get older, you can start to add in the passing and the shooting and the stick handling and the awareness and things like that. As you get older, when you get to the junior level, the college level, the pro level, you really start to hammer in on the little details and the little habits of the game. But I would say, this is a question we could do an entire podcast on. One of the things that we also need to be really focusing on as we look at the base of the pyramid is just playing with your head up, scanning and shoulder checking. Like again, very simple, but like that's really important. Like you see all these studies being done in all these different sports, and soccer is kind of the one that's pioneered a lot of this. The best players, they scan the most. It's just a fact. And
Hmm.
so like playing with your head up, doing things like that goes a long way too. So I don't know if I totally answered your question, but hopefully that at least gave a little bit of perspective on.
No, for sure. I think we always emphasize skating as well. That we obviously review a lot of our guys' videos here, and the first big difference I find with kids that tend to have more opportunities are the kids that work on their skating. So that's black and white, right? Like I could watch kids that I've never met before, and they're coming here for the first time, and we watch some of their shifts, and then I'm like, yep, I have a pretty good idea why you're playing where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah, and skating isn't just stride too. I think that's really important to kind of talk
That's
about.
right.
It's not just your skating stride. It's edges, it stops and starts, it's transitions from forward to backwards. It's opening the hips. Like there's a lot that goes into that. So like and all the skating coaches will tell you that in development, but like so much of the time when we think about skating, we just think of like point A to point B skating stride.
Fast as you can.
But fast isn't just that. Fast is how fast can you transition? How fast can you go forward or backwards? How fast can you get out of an escape? All those things are important too.
And potentially why they're getting tired so quickly as well. So we've had kids that will say, oh, I get really tired, like even after like a minute,
Yeah.
and like they're gassed for the rest of the game. It's not just for that period or for that shift. But then when I watch, I'm like, yeah, it's I could probably guess why you're getting tired.
Yeah. The more efficient your skating is, the less tired you're going to get on the ice. 100%.
Yeah. There's certain things that you wish parents knew more about from a skill development point of view. So we talked a little bit about skating. Are there other things that um, you wish that parents knew a little bit more about, but they either not believing in it or are skeptical about it?
I think one of the things that we talk about a lot, and when you talk to like higher level development coaches, I don't know if it's like a specific skill, but just an overall watching a practice. Like if a practice looks messy, that's okay. It's actually good. That means there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of mistakes being made. That means there's a lot like if you look at a practice and it's clean, you know, for me they're not being challenged enough. Like they're not being challenged enough. And if it's messy and kids are making mistakes, that means you're pushing them outside their comfort zone, which means that like they're getting better. I don't know if that makes any sense. So it's not really like a specific skill or thing, but just like if a regular parent that maybe not as educated in hockey or sports in general looks at a practice and it looks kind of messy, they're kind of like, what's going on? There's no organization or structure or whatever. But a lot of times those are really good practices. Now there's got to be a balance, right? If kids are just doing whatever they want and whatever, that's one thing. But like, um, yeah, I think that pushing kids outside the comfort zone and the practice looking messy is okay. I would say that's kind of like one thing that wish parents would know.
You know what? I wholeheartedly agree with that because a lot of the skates that we do are incredibly messy. And when we bring some of the junior guys, the pro guys on the ice, I mean, they lose pucks left, right, and center, and they get frustrated. They throw their sticks around, and yeah, I mean, I think even when my son was developing, that people kind of rewarded him for doing some of the easy stuff and wasn't really being pushed or being challenged, let's say. Whereas, yeah, I mean, we want them to fail. We want them to, make those mistakes. So then it becomes an opportunity for us as coaches to kind of step in and say, okay, if you do it this way, you'll get better. And then all of a sudden they do it and they get better, right? So I actually I love that answer because I wish more people kind of understood that a lot of the stuff that we do is really working on their intelligence, which doesn't always look sexy on the ice because they're not going bar down and they're not, doing all the things that they typically get rewarded for. So,
Yeah, and a great example, we had Alex Tuck on our podcast who plays for the Sabres a couple of years ago, and we were talking about how a bunch of the pro guys went down and worked with Dale Belfry for a little bit of time down in Florida. And he told a story about Austin Matthews and how Belfry created some drill that was really making Matthews struggle. I can't remember what the skill was or whatever, but like, but you saw like the competitor in Matthew, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. And he kept working and he kept working and he kept working. And if Belfry would have made the drill easy, Matthews isn't getting better and he's not where he is today, people like that. And that's like another thing that in youth hockey that I see a lot is like youth coaches sometimes are scared to really challenge players because they're afraid they're going to lose their confidence or mom and dad are going to be upset that you're pushing too hard or whatever it may be. But like we have to continue to push the envelope in the right ways and in a positive environment, right? Where like kids understanding that learning and failing is a part of the process and you have to be able to do that. But that challenge, that's what the best do. Like when they get challenged and they fail, like they get right back wake up and they want to learn and they want to succeed and they want to figure it out. And that was just I know you're in Toronto, so people want an Austin Matthews story maybe, but that always really stuck with me. Like, no, like the best in the world want to be pushed. They want to be challenged. That's how they know they get better.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I know we're coming up to the top of the hour here, so but I wanted to let people know like where to find you and how to find your podcast and how to reach out to you.
Great. No, thank you. Yeah. I mean, we're on social media, pretty much all the platforms at the Hockey Think Tank. We have a website, thehockeythinktank.com. We have our podcast, the Hockey Think Tank podcast, which we'll have you on at some point for sure.
Love that.
But yeah, that's where you find us, and we're an open book. So reach out with through DMs if you have any questions or anything like that. But appreciate you having me on, and it's always fun to talk hockey with passionate and smart hockey people. So I appreciate your time too.
Yeah, this is great. This is great. We'll definitely we'll do another one with Jeff as well, and because definitely like to get his insights as well. But
He's the talent. He's the talent of the podcast. There you go.
oh, it's all part of the team. All part of the team. But yeah, Topher, thanks so much for coming on the Cognition School podcast. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully we will get to see you very very soon. If you're ever in the Toronto area, feel free to come up and visit us here. So I'm looking forward to that.
Will do. Thanks.
So everybody, thanks again for joining, and we will talk to you very very soon. Thanks a lot.